Welcome, and happy holidays. Merry Christmas. This is the OU Insider Under the Visor Sooners podcast. My name is Brandon Drum. I'm here with Parker Thune. And man, oh man, when you think the offseason is going to be boring, college football is here to tell you it's not, because the adults in the room have allowed chaos by how they are running or not running things in the world of college football. I mean, I'm just going to start there. Like, this is chaos, Parker. Chaos. Transfer portal, people getting in because there's no rules and regulations for anything. There's tampering. There's never a dull moment in college football. Never a dull moment. Welcome, Sooners fans. I mean, what a week, Parker. A lot of good took place, obviously, with Deion Burks, with Sam Franklin, Spencer Brown. Oklahoma's got 3 offensive guys coming in this week. As far as transfer portal guys go, that we can confirm. We're working on the defensive side to figure out what's going on there. 100% on visits. Do expect a visit or two potentially on the defensive side. And I say potentially because we can't confirm it. But you have Michigan State starting offensive guard Gino Vandemark. You have freshman All-American in 2022 from North Texas, Fabichi Nawawu. And you have, I'm trying to think, Southeast Louisiana State tight end, Bear Sharp, who is considered one of the top tight ends. Bauer Sharp. Everybody I've talked to him calls him Bear. So
interesting.
Yeah, I know. I'm repeating what I was told his name was, because
Bear Sharp. That's quite a name.
Yeah, well, it could be. I'm going to go Bauer just because that's what you say, and you've pronounced stuff better than I do. So we'll go with Bauer Sharp. And the people that were telling me that speak a lot like me. So, and no offense to them, I'm joking. But so yeah, Bauer Sharp, he is one of the top tight ends in FCS last year, and one of the top tight ends in the portal. Oklahoma, I would say, the leads for all 3, Parker. You could probably expect Oklahoma, or them to be on the Oklahoma 2024 roster if I was a betting man right now, but transfer portal's crazy. Oklahoma did an in-home with Chris McClellan just last night. We're recording this Friday morning. They did an in-home with Dominic McKinley as well, the 5-star defensive lineman out of Lafayette, Louisiana, who is committed to A&M. So there is a lot to talk about, and that is just setting the groundwork. Not even talking bowl game. We're not even talking the SEC schedule that was released, and my, oh my, is it going to be fun. So Parker, my God, it's going to be quick. It's only going to be about 40, 45 minutes, but we're going to cover a lot of stuff in that 40, 45 minutes. So
let's do it, baby.
How you doing, man?
Well, it's been a week. No doubt about that. Shoot, this used to be the deadest time on the college football calendar, and here we are, Brandon, and it maybe has been the busiest week of the year, all things considered.
Yeah, but the funny thing is, man, is you remember back probably 4 or 5 years ago is when all this changed. But before that, May, I would say probably June and July were just dead outside of media days, just dead. And you would have some, like the Champion barbecues, the party in the palace, like those things would happen. But outside of that, it was dead. With the transfer portal and the early signing day, Parker, everything, there is no dead period in college football anymore. Zero, which is pushing out a lot of coaches, by the way. So and that's where I made the joke to start the podcast that the adults in the room made decisions that now there's consequences for. And their decision was to not have any regulations and rules on certain things and timelines on certain things. And now they're the ones leaving the sport because it got too busy. And it got too busy because they didn't put rules, regulations, and timelines on things. Like, you can't, like, Parker, we're in the middle of playoff and bowl season, and people are entering there's free agency going on. In the NFL, that happens after the season's over. Not in the middle of it. You finish the season with your team as you started in the NFL. In college football, you have players in the playoff that are leaving playoff teams to hit the portal. And it's because of the rules and regulations or lack thereof that is taking place in college football right now.
It's such a wild world we live in right now. And ultimately, here's the thing, Brandon. There's no apparent way to fix any of this. There's no apparent way to curtail any of it. I mean, there is, but
the adults would have to do it.
Yes. And it's some of those maneuvers that you make in order to curtail it will not be popular. No, and I think the conjunction, the juxtaposition rather of NIL and the transfer portal has just permanently and drastically altered roster management in college football and recruiting and every other thing that helps make up the fabric of the game. It's
the one entity that's actually gained because of this is junior college, because there's a lot of players that hit the portal that don't get picked up. They end up in junior college and they end up back in Division I football a year or two later after they've reproven themselves in junior college. So junior college football actually got better because of this. And remember, it was almost dead because the transfer portal originally was supposed to kill it, right? Because everybody was going to go to the transfer portal, all that. Well, junior college now got like a resurgence because of it. And people are going to grab top junior college players now because of the resurgence in the junior college football. I think there's so many things, Parker, that we talk about now that are, or we can talk about, that have been kind of a windfall of, or a domino effect of decisions or lack thereof of decisions made by the people in quote, air quote, power, that have created certain things that have been good for college football and bad. Like, the good part is that the transfer portal keeps everybody interested 365 days a year. Like, college football has become more popular over the last 3 or 4 years, and you see it in the ratings. And I know TV is like something you can't really use a baseline of, is it good for college football because of TV ratings? But as far as monetary gains, transfer portal's been good for college football in that regard. Where it has been bad is there is no dead period. There is no time for the coaches to go on vacations. They have to have their phones with them all the time. Parker, you and I have to have our phones with us every time we go on vacation.
boy.
There's no such thing as a vacation. There's no such thing as a vacation anymore. I have not taken a true vacation in 4 or 5 years where I can just put my phone down and just say, you know what, whatever. People call constantly because there's always movement happening. And if you think that's happening to us, you got to amplify that times 100 with the people involved in the actual college coaching world. So it's wild. I mean, it drains us. It's almost unbearable for a lot of them, except for the fact that they're making more money than they can shake a stick at. So, there's a lot of windfall from it, man. And you see that with the Cayden Green stuff, like the Cayden Green situation, Parker. And how about that for a segue? Is just part of what's wrong with college football. Both sides can be blamed for this situation.
For the Cayden Green situation?
But most of it needs to be on the greens because Oklahoma did everything they were supposed to do there. Um,
Well, yeah, look,
Lack
here's
of communication, I guess, is where I would say Oklahoma could be pointed a finger at and say, okay, that's where kind of they screwed up. But here's the thing, and you can. I want you to come in and add more levity to the situation because
sure.
you know more than I do on this. The lack of communication was an issue, but it was fixed
Yeah.
and fixed so quickly that they did everything they were supposed to do and said, you know what? That's our bad. We're going to come in here and you're going to get this, but understand you're making more than any guard probably in college football. And you're being paid like an offensive tackle. And if you don't hold up your end of the bargain, we're going to have to probably pay you as this. And I'm not saying that's how the conversation went, but to me, that is how the conversation had to have gone if there's no quote trust from the Greens with
Well,
Oklahoma now, because it doesn't make sense outside of that.
and here's the deal. Ultimately, at the end of the day, I think it is pretty well known and understood, and it's been reiterated to me by multiple sources and conversations I've had that Jeff Lebby was the one that helped coordinate a lot of things as far as NIL was concerned. And so you lose a guy like that to Mississippi State 2 weeks ago. You got to figure out how to account for things in his absence, right? And that's been an ongoing process. It's been a process that's been tough because the coaches have been out on the road doing in-home visits. And so everybody is kind of all spread out and uh, things are flying at 1,000 miles an hour as it is. And there have been some things to iron out in the NIL department for Oklahoma because losing Lebby is not insignificant in that capacity. And so, yeah, look, there was a little bit of misunderstanding, I suppose, between OU and the Greens as far as NIL was concerned. But at the end of the day, man, they were getting what they had asked for. And
Yeah.
yet they still bounced out of town. And look, I know there are a zillion theories floating around. Ultimately, people are they're going to believe what they want to believe, right? If you choose to believe that Dylan Gabriel was the middleman that helped Oregon induce Cayden Green to enter the portal, well, I'm probably not going to talk you off that ledge. If you believe that Eli Drinkwitz is a slime ball and he was the one striking backdoor deals to get Cayden Green into the portal, well, then I'm probably not going to convince you otherwise. What I know to be the truth is that, yes, Oregon and Missouri, he's announced visits to those two schools. And it makes a lot of sense because those are the two schools that, besides Oklahoma, are most deeply entrenched in his home community. Dan Lanning is a KC guy, has known a lot of folks there for a long, long time. Oregon basically offers everybody worth offering in Kansas City. They want to maintain strong inroads there, and obviously Missouri is right up the road. So what I know to be the truth is that the Greens simply felt like the misunderstanding, as it were, was cause enough not to have the same trust in OU that they once had and to explore their options in the portal. Obviously, Oregon and Missouri were going to be the first two schools that sprung because of how connected they are with some of the folks in Lee's Summit and people that are close to Green. So not that surprised, but at the end of the day, look, if one school had tampered to get him in the portal, there wouldn't be another school in the mix, Brandon. There wouldn't be. How many guys go into the portal, just take one visit and commit to that school? It happens more often than not because everything happens on such a condensed timetable. And if somebody's tampered with, first off, there's really nothing you can do about it, right?
No,
Because
because
there's
there's
no
no rules.
yeah, exactly. So all you can do is just kind of stand by and let it happen. And if you know a kid has been tampered with, and it becomes a very open secret very quickly behind the scenes because the coaching world is pretty small, all things considered. If you know a kid has been tampered with, you're not going to bother pursuing him because you know he's already bought and paid for.
Yeah. I mean, this whole thing is just wild. And look,
None of it
Or,
makes like you can't make
no,
it make sense
you can't
any
make it
way you
make
slice it.
sense. But tampering, we both don't think tampering was done there with Green, um, at least until after the the snafu, I guess the lack of trust that's they supposed have, or they're using the lack of trust as an excuse, which is also something that I know fans are going to sit there and say that's taking place. And as we don't know, like, we know what we're told, right? We know what we are told. But at the end of the day, there's always can be some sort of underlying reasoning for why they're using words that they're using to tell us and to tell others of why they're transferring. So tampering could have taken place and they could have just used it as, but the fact is Green professed his love for Oklahoma has at an exuberant level for 2 years, right? Like he loved Oklahoma during his time at Oklahoma. Last Friday, he literally was retweeting, welcoming another transfer offensive lineman, saying, "Welcome to the fam, brother."
Yeah.
Like,
Okay. And like here's what is important to understand, and the distinction that needs to be drawn. Was this departure about NIL at its core? Yes. Like the breakdown was over money. And that can be true. And it can also be true that, and I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this so that it makes sense. But if 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 money was Cayden Green's primary objective as a football player, if his primary objective was just to get paid as much as possible while he was in college, I'll tell you this much: he would never have signed with Oklahoma in the first place because he had very substantial NIL offers elsewhere and said no to them to come to Oklahoma. So why do you do that? Why do you sign with Oklahoma in the first place and turn down better money elsewhere if you're just going to leave in a year to go take a bag? And listen, I'm not saying minds can change. I'm not saying, the money that was on the table for him a year ago is remotely the same as the money that's on the
no,
table
after his freshman
now.
year, that he could. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, what he's shown, he's a generous. Like OU source called him a generational talent yesterday.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Yeah.
Straight up.
Obviously, the market for him is going to be very high. But basically, like there there seemed to be two different interpretations of what went on throughout the NIL conversations. And the best way I had it phrased to me by somebody who was very close to that situation is it just kind of felt like they're searching for reasons at this point to justify the exit. And the one thing you can't justify is how it was handled, Brandon. I mean, you can't, especially when you got teammates that thought you were taking a final and
Oh,
had
dude, that
no
was
idea.
so awkward.
Yeah.
So awkward. If you would have been there, you would have been felt. It just felt just. And not to interrupt you, but
No, no, no.
Jackson, Billy, and Jaleel and McCade are all asked, and they all sit there and like, no, I thought he was final, or I thought he was, and at that point in time, he's actually in the locker room removing his equipment out while getting interviewed, while the interviews are taking place. Talk about weird,
Yeah. And
weird.
yeah, look, the Greens have their reasons. Everybody has their theories and thoughts and opinions on their reasons, whatever they may be. Uh, End of the day, the one thing that cannot be justified in all of this is how it went down. It's not what went down, it's how it went down. Because
Mm-hmm.
let's just say the popular theory, obviously, the popular theory is, well, he left to go get paid a much bigger bag. And if that's the case, okay, fine. Like, again, we said it on the live. I said it at least. I don't think anybody's going to begrudge you for that. It's your life,
No, it
right?
was,
But
and I said it was cowardly for how they handled it. If they would have
yeah,
just been up front, and we even said, well, we can say the name now. Like Savion just was straight up with everybody. I'm going to go test the waters and see how much money I can go get in the NIL world. Okay, at least you're honest, right? Like you're honest. and up front. And I think that is the thing. And speaking of Savion, like, what the hell, man? Like, is he get it? He's supposed to be visiting SMU today. If that visit takes place, we'll see. But I did have a source that, let's just say, is connected to the offensive line world at Oklahoma. And no, it's not a coach. Um, texted me today and said, so Savion Bird question mark, and just kind of was like, hey, have you heard about this type deal? And we discussed it a little bit. That's another weird deal. Like, he was up front. I feel like I'm not getting my due. I'm not playing. I'm going to go test the water, see if I can make NIL money for my family. Like, he was honest.
Yeah.
And it was respectful. How he left was respectful. There was no bad feeling on OU side. There was no bad feeling on his side. And I think that was the cool part. That's how it's supposed to be done, Parker. Like, that's how it's supposed to be done. And now, because there was no hard feelings, Oklahoma's looking over at him going, you know what? You can play in the SEC. You were pretty good at times for us. Once you get the whole offense down, like, he struggled with some of the offensive calls and some of the check with me's and all that type of stuff. But at the end of the day, he has All-American talent, like literally All-American talent. And if you're Bill Beanbo and you're Oklahoma, you look at that and go, you know what? He's only a sophomore.
Yeah.
Come on over here. Let's talk. let's chop it up and see if we can't reconcile this. And that seems to be where things are at. I mean, what have you heard?
Yeah, I mean, look, I know it is there are ongoing conversations there. Nothing
Yep.
is a done deal, nothing is a
Kind of what I've heard.
certainty, but obviously Cayden Green leaving, which was thoroughly unanticipated,
Mm-hmm.
definitely creates a trickle-down effect, both competitively and monetarily, that might make a return. Well, not might, would make a return from Savion Byrd make a lot more sense on paper than it did a week ago. So that might be your stopgap at left guard going forward. Who knows? If
Right.
things can get ironed out in that capacity. I mean, by the time this podcast goes public, unless there is some seismic 11th hour shift, OU's also going to land a commitment from
Yeah.
one of the finest interior offensive linemen in the 2024 class in Eddy Pierre-Louis. And boy, I don't know how OU pulled that one off, man. I really don't. But the very fact that he only visited OU once over the course of his recruitment, and yet 6 months after that visit, more than 6 months after that visit, he's locking in with OU over
Mm-hmm.
UCF, over Oregon, over Miami and Texas A&M.
But did Miami really recruit him? Honestly, like,
Well,
I don't know the whole just on that one.
I I have given up on trying to figure out anything pertinent to Miami recruiting. It's such, I mean, you want to talk about a complete crap show.
Yeah, they just start throwing money around and seeing who sticks,
That's really
basically.
what it is, man.
Yeah.
Like Miami recruiting is that's an entirely different world.
And you see some
I'm
of their stars leaving because there's no relationship. It's just it's transactional down
dude,
there. That's all it is.
trust me, OU fans have no idea how blessed they are.
Yeah.
No, absolutely no idea. And that sounds crazy, especially in the aftermath of the Cayden Green fiasco, but like you have no idea how blessed you are to deal with as little drama as you deal with on the recruiting trail. Because when you have greater context for the high dollar uh haymaker bouts that get waged between Florida, Florida State, and Miami, man, I don't know how anybody covers recruiting in the Sunshine State. It has got to be an absolute nightmare day in and day out. And I respect the heck out of anybody who does it.
Well, and Oklahoma recruits in that state. So every time you see a Florida kid, notoriously, um, it turns into drama. Florida kids and anybody that's covered the class, and even the Florida kids will tell you, like, they're all over the place when it comes to recruiting. Like, and they are, and they laugh about it and they think it's funny because that's just kind of the culture down there when it comes to recruiting. Is it's all over. Look, David Stone is an Oklahoman. He spent 2 years in Florida. He went from a surefire lock to Oklahoma to almost taking hordes of money from Miami and Michigan State to go to places that he visited there, but the relationships that he had with the staff didn't even compare. Well, at Michigan State it did, but in Miami it didn't even compare to Oklahoma. And I think that has to tell you how it is. And it it's just a different world. Jaden Jackson was another that was had people throwing hordes of money at him, and Oklahoma somehow, took care of that. He's a guy I would like to have on our National Signing Day show, by the way.
Who's that now?
Um, Jaden
Jay
Jackson.
Jackson. Yeah, a lot
I
of
could
lot of
probably
people
make
were
that
saying,
work.
"Man,
Yeah.
love to have him on the show."
Yeah.
We'll
And
try
we
to
may
catch
be
up
able,
with him at some point.
yeah, I'm going to try to
Obviously,
do
the
a
All
New Year
American
recruit with
game.
him.
He's playing in the All American game, right?
He is playing in, is it the All American? I know he's
Yeah, all the
playing
IMG
in the
guys go to the
Polynesian.
Orlando one, right? Or
Well, you
Polynesian.
didn't know I'm going to the Polynesian Bowl this year.
You're going to the Polynesian Bowl?
No, I'm not. I'm
I was
just
about to say,
kidding.
hello,
No, I'm kidding. Hawaii. All right.
mahalo.
Yeah, mahalo, Parker. I'm about 5 hours behind you. Relax on the beach. No, for real though, like, yeah, I think he's playing in that one. But the point being is the Florida kids are just crazy. Getting EPL, Eddy Pierre-Louis is going to be a massive get for Oklahoma if it stays trending in that direction, like we think it's going to, and we think it is. So today, we're recording this on Friday. Should be a good day for Oklahoma, all the way around. So, um, SEC schedule, man. Oklahoma. But first off, Florida just got bent over the table, bro. There was, it was, and I'm going to use it. There was no lube required, man. They just said, hey, SEC said, grab your ankles. We're going in. Well, hey, did they not? I mean, my God.
I mean,
That
it's a
is a brutal schedule. Their last 5 games are essentially, if a 12-team playoff, they're playoff teams. Literally, like, Napier might as well go ahead and start putting his for sale sign up.
yeah. At this rate, he doesn't have a job at this time next year. At
No.
least not at the University of Florida.
And here's the thing: is DJ Lagway's probably going to A&M.
You think so?
That's the buzz. Like, he's trending that direction.
What about Xavier Filsaime?
Texas.
They need
That
those two,
dude.
man.
That dude is in, like, our boy Blake Alderman. Man, I feel so bad for him. I feel so bad for him. He worked with us at 24/7. I feel bad for him, man. He's in a draw. Like, I always say, he's like, man, it's always going to happen, isn't it? He cracks me up, man. He's one of the funniest guys I've ever talked to, by the way. But he's really good at his job too. So, if you, I'll say it, man. If he's amazing at covering Florida. But Oklahoma schedule, it's still, I mean, it's not a cakewalk by any stretch of the imagination. You have to go to Auburn. You have to go to LSU, and you've got to go to Ole Miss. Yikes. But the good news is the only other away game is the neutral site with Texas. And no, what's the other? What Auburn, Ole Miss, LSU, Texas.
Missouri.
Is that in Missouri? Missouri. Oh God. Yeah, that's brutal too, man. That's brutal. But you get 7 home games next year. When's the last time OU got 7 home games?
Didn't they have 7 home games in 2021?
I don't remember.
Yeah, I think most years they have 7
Okay,
home
how
games.
about this? When was the last time they had 7 home games like they're going to have 7 home games on the
But yeah,
schedule?
I
Like,
mean, obviously never. Like the
okay. Okay.
the caliber of those 7 home games,
There we go. That's where I
like
was going to go on
obviously,
that.
Maine is Maine, but
Yeah.
Alabama at home, Tennessee at home, even
South
Houston and
Carolina.
Tulane at home. Like Houston and Tulane are not also rans in the world of college football.
Yeah.
I mean, shoot, last time Oklahoma played, well, no, they beat them in 2019, but I can remember a time when a Tom Herman led Houston team knocked off Oklahoma in a very high profile non-conference season opener down at NRG Stadium. Tulane won a New Year's Six Bowl last year. Those programs, they're not scrubs in the landscape of college football.
No, not at all. But I just that you got South Carolina at home, you got Beamer coming back, you got Heupel coming back. And it's not just the fact that they're big names. It's there's storylines behind it. Like this is what Oklahoma's been missing in the Big 12. Like you're missing out on storylines. There's going to be great storylines. There's going to be great recruiting battles that now Oklahoma is going to. Texas was it in the Big 12. Like when he had recruiting battles, the only team you could sit there and look across on the offense and defensive side of the ball and be like, oh, well, Oklahoma recruited that kid heavy, or he was almost a Sooner, was Texas in the Big 12. Now you got almost every team that you can sit there and point to and go, almost had him, almost had that guy, that guy, that guy. So there's going to be storylines. There's going to be players that the fan base is going to know if they follow recruiting because they had followed those players for 2 or 3 years leading up to their signing, right? And they're going to see them on the opposing side of the field and know what to expect of them. That hasn't been the case in the Big 12. A lot of nobodies, and that's no offense to the Big 12, but it's a fact. You have Oklahoma and Texas, and then you got a lot of also rans out there. I mean, they, am I speaking false here? I mean, it's truth. I got maybe Oklahoma State because people know the Oklahoma kids, but that's it, man. That's it. Nobody knew who Will Howard was until he beat Oklahoma at K State.
Did Will Howard beat Oklahoma?
I'm just
I don't
making
think Will
I'm
Howard beat
just
Oklahoma.
I'm making kind of a joke about the quarterbacks or the names. Nobody knew who. I'm trying to think. Brock Purdy was. How about that? Nobody knew who Brock Purdy was until he beat Oklahoma. He did. He
He,
was. He played. Did he not play in 2017?
no. That was the Kyle Kemp, Joel
No, that was
Lanning.
Kyle Kemp, wasn't it?
Yeah.
No, but he beat him in 2020.
He beat him in 2020. That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
but nobody
19
knew.
wins.
Nobody knew about him until he beat Oklahoma. You see what I mean? Like,
Mm, I think people knew. He
yeah,
was
but
he was getting projected as a first round NFL draft pick. You want to talk about a blast from the past? The COVID year, March, April 2020. There were NFL scouts going, "Oh, Brock Purdy's a first round draft pick next year." And obviously, he's had a good NFL career, but at the time,
oh
I and
yeah,
many
he's up
others were
for the
like, "What?
MVP, bro.
Like, are we watching the same player here?" Maybe they were
Yeah,
right. I guess they
yeah.
might have been, but he ended up being drafted
He's
in the
even
seventh round, final
yeah
pick of the
he's
draft.
but he's had an amazing season this year. Um, he's doing really well. Um, yeah, but my point stands. Like, there's not a lot of names out there in the Big 12. There's names everywhere on every team in the SEC outside of Vanderbilt and maybe Mississippi State. But Jeff Lebby is going to change that at Mississippi State. You already see it happening. I mean, the dude just brought in Michael Van Buren from Oregon, flipped him from Oregon. And that shows you, I want to go back to last summer when we said before Hawkins got in there, what were we saying? Michael Van Buren is Oklahoma leads for him. and they led for him last summer. But when Jackson started showing out and doing everything during the spring and all that, like it started to slow down a little bit with Michael Van Buren because he knew he wasn't going to hit the field for several years and he wanted to come in and potentially compete for the starting job. And so it went from, do you not remember that, Parker? Like Van Buren in Oklahoma were like a major thing with Lebby.
Yes, they were. It didn't
And you see
last
how much of a
terribly long,
major
but it
thing
was.
when he went to Mississippi State and flipped him like that. Like that tells you, like, and they were still communicating, obviously. So, anyways, you look at that Oklahoma schedule. What do you think it is next year? What's the record?
Oh man, it's so hard to make a prediction right now because
I'll say
also,
9-3. I'll say 9-3.
8-4, 9-3 seems like the safe vicinity to land in. But even so, like, we have no idea how the portal is going to affect so many of those teams on the schedule, right? Our feelings about, say, Auburn may be completely different a month from now based on who they land in the transfer portal, just to pick one example. Heck, our feelings on Oklahoma may be completely different a month from now based on who they land in the portal, you know?
All right. And on that note, we're going to end the podcast.
Wow. Cliffhanger, baby. I feel like most everybody knows what I was hinting at, though.
No, I know. I got you, man. You're good. But seriously though, we're going to go, we're making this podcast quick. Try to make it seamless for you guys. If you're not on OU Insider, a lot of people are signing up right now, and they're signing up because there's so much going on, as we've talked about here. And everything we talked about with Cayden Green, everything we talked about as far as recruiting, we didn't even touch on Chris McClellan. I got plenty of notes on there. I got some more notes coming for you guys on OU Insider. I've got notes coming on other portal guys on OU Insider later on this weekend. So be on OU Insider. Parker has more notes going. I got Dominic McKinley notes coming up for you guys on OU Insider. We've got a lot of stuff we're going to touch on. And you can get all that information on OU Insider, $9.95 a month, or you get a whole year for $99. Like literally you get a whole year. So if you signed up on December 15th of 2023, you get it all the way to December 16th in 2024. So, hey, sign up. It means you'll get the whole season of the SEC. You'll get all of National Signing Days. You'll get all of the junior days. You'll get all of spring. You'll get all the party in the palace. You'll get all the transfer portal stuff during the spring and summer. You'll get all the coaching stuff, all the team stuff, the off-season stuff. Who's showing out? Who do we think is going to start ahead of somebody? Blah, blah, blah. We talk about that stuff year-round on OU Insider, SEC Media Days, fall camp, who's doing what in practice and doing this and that. Like, we have all the inside information for you guys. And we cover basketball, the number 11 team in the country. Brody and Jesse got that covered for you, top to bottom. Even got a podcast. What's the podcast name, Parker?
In the Paint.
In the Paint, correct.
Yes.
In the Paint. Very clever name.
Jesse and Brody.
Yep, In the
Quality
Paint.
Name.
Quality name, quality content on top of that. And they got recruiting stuff. They have all that stuff for you guys on OU Insider VIP. Plus, you need to click here. We got 14,000 plus subscribers. We're trying to get up to 20,000 by the football season. So help us out there, Sooners fans. We can't thank you guys enough because we do this job because of you. All right. That's going to do it for this version of the OU Insider Under the Visor Sooners podcast. For Parker Thune, my name is Brandon Drum. You guys have a blessed day.